I was ready to buy. A $176,000, 65 years old, she sat across a small folding table from a property developer's sales representative, a signed reservation agreement, and a $20,000 deposit check already prepared, ready to secure a $176,000 pre-construction condominium unit in a coastal development outside Cebu that had, over her 3 previous visits to the sales office, come to feel like the specific and certain answer to years of careful retirement planning. A woman she had met exactly once, briefly, at a community gathering the week before, had told her something during that brief conversation that she could not fully shake. A simple recommendation to wait 90 days before signing anything, regardless of how confident she currently felt. She waited. This is the story of what those 90 days revealed, and why she now considers that brief, almost incidental piece of advice among the most financially significant conversations of her retirement. She had retired at 63 from a 31-year career as a corporate accountant, a professional background she wanted noted specifically because it meant she did not consider herself financially naive or inexperienced in evaluating investment decisions. A detail she felt mattered to how genuinely surprised she had been by what her subsequent research eventually uncovered. Her retirement combined a pension and Social Security, providing approximately $3,200 monthly, a genuinely comfortable position that had allowed her, over her first 18 months of retirement spent partly in the Philippines on extended visits, to seriously consider property ownership rather than ongoing rental, motivated by both the specific financial logic of building equity rather than paying rent indefinitely, and a genuine emotional desire for the particular stability and permanence property ownership represented to her. The specific development she had been prepared to purchase into had presented itself, across her 3 sales office visits, with what she now recognized, in retrospect, as a carefully constructed sense of urgency. Current pricing available only for a limited remaining number of units. A promotional rate she was told would increase significantly once construction reached a certain milestone, and a specific and repeated emphasis from her sales representative on other interested buyers currently considering the same unit. A combination of factors she acknowledged, with some retrospective embarrassment, had genuinely affected her sense of the timeline she was operating within, despite her professional background specifically training her to recognize similar urgency tactics in other contexts throughout her career. Before we get into what her 90 days of additional research actually revealed, subscribe right now and turn on the notification bell. Every week on this channel, we share real, honest stories of Americans starting over overseas. Not the polished version, the honest one. Subscribe now so you never miss one. The woman who had offered the initial advice, she learned during a longer conversation they eventually had during her waiting period, had her own considerably more painful direct experience motivating the recommendation. Having purchased into a similar pre-construction development 4 years earlier that had ultimately stalled indefinitely following the developer's financial difficulties, leaving her with a substantial deposit essentially unrecoverable through any straightforward legal process. Property that existed only as a partially completed foundation, rather than the completed unit she had paid toward. This specific risk, developer financial instability leading to stalled or abandoned pre-construction projects, became the first and most significant focus of her subsequent research, an area she discovered her original 3 sales office visits had provided essentially no independent information about beyond the developer's own marketing materials and sales representative assurances. She spent her first several weeks of research specifically investigating the developer's actual financial history and track record, research that required, she wanted to note, considerably more effort than simply reading online reviews, involving direct outreach to a real estate attorney she retained specifically for this purpose, a decision that cost approximately $800 in consultation fees, but that she credited as among the most valuable money she had ever spent, given what the attorney's research ultimately revealed. The specific developer, while presenting a confident and well-established image through their sales materials and physical sales office, had, according to public business registration records the attorney accessed, completed only 2 of 4 previously announced development projects over the preceding 6 years, with the remaining 2 projects, according to available public information, currently in extended and unexplained construction delays exceeding 18 months beyond their original announced completion dates. She wanted to walk through the second major category of risk her research uncovered, one distinct from developer stability and specifically related to the legal structure of foreign condominium ownership in the Philippines, a topic she had assumed, incorrectly, she adequately understood based on general research conducted before her original visits. Philippine law permits foreign nationals to own condominium units directly, a fact her sales representative had emphasized repeatedly and accurately, but restricts foreign ownership within any single condominium project to a maximum of 40% of the total units, a specific legal threshold she learned, through her attorney's research. The particular development she had been prepared to purchase into was already approaching, based on current presale figures, a factor that carried genuine practical significance she had not previously considered, since developments approaching or exceeding that foreign ownership threshold can face specific complications regarding building association voting rights, potential difficulty for foreign owners hoping to eventually sell to other foreign buyers once the threshold is reached, and, in some documented cases her attorney referenced, disputes regarding whether specific individual unit sales should legally count toward the foreign ownership calculation at all. Disputes that had, in at least 2 cases her attorney was personally aware of through his broader practice, resulted in genuine and costly legal complications for individual unit owners caught in the resulting uncertainty. The third specific area her research addressed involved the pre-construction payment structure itself, a topic she wanted to walk through with genuine numerical specificity, given how significantly it differed from her assumptions based on her professional background in accounting and general familiarity with property purchase structures in the United States. The reservation agreement she had been prepared to sign required, beyond her initial $20,000 deposit, a series of construction-linked progress payments totaling the full $176,000 purchase price, structured to be paid incrementally as specific construction milestones were reportedly reached. A structure that placed, she came to understand through her attorney's explanation, considerably more risk on her as the buyer than she had initially appreciated, since verifying that reported construction milestones had genuinely been reached, rather than simply accepting the developer's own progress reports, required either genuinely inconvenient in-person verification or trust in reporting from a party with an obvious financial incentive to report favorable progress regardless of actual construction status. She ultimately did not purchase the unit. A decision she wanted to be direct had not come without genuine emotional difficulty, having spent considerable time envisioning the specific life she had planned to build in that particular unit. Watching, over the following year, the development's construction timeline slipped twice from its originally announced completion date, delays that, while not definitively proving the same trajectory as the 2 previously stalled projects her attorney had identified, had reinforced her growing confidence that her decision to wait and investigate further had been genuinely sound, rather than an overly cautious response to what may have been a legitimate opportunity. She has since purchased property in the Philippines, she wanted to note, approximately 14 months after her original near purchase, choosing instead a completed rather than pre-construction unit in an established development with several years of operational history and a documented track record of consistent building association management, a decision that cost meaningfully more than her original prospective purchase, approximately $210,000, but that she considered, given everything her research had revealed, a genuinely more secure investment for her specific retirement circumstances and risk tolerance at her age. When asked what she would tell someone else considering property purchase in the Philippines, particularly pre-construction developments marketed with the kind of urgency-driven sales approach she had originally encountered, her answer focused specifically on several concrete research steps she now recommends unconditionally, regardless of how confident or time-pressured any individual sales situation might feel. She recommended retaining an independent real estate attorney, not affiliated with the developer or selling agent in any capacity, before signing any reservation agreement or providing any deposit, specifically to investigate the developer's actual completion track record through public business records, rather than relying on sales materials. She recommended specifically confirming the current foreign ownership percentage within any prospective development relative to the 40% legal threshold, a figure she noted reputable developments should be able to provide transparently, but that her own original sales representative had, in retrospect, never proactively volunteered, despite her multiple visits and direct questions about the purchase process generally. And she recommended, as a general practice, regardless of the specific property under consideration, treating any sales urgency, limited time pricing, competing buyer pressure, imminent price increases, as a specific signal warranting additional caution and independent verification, rather than accelerated decision-making, a pattern she now recognized, with the benefit of her subsequent research, as considerably more common across the pre-construction development sales environment generally than she had originally appreciated during her own initial, nearly consequential experience. If you are watching this and are considering a property purchase in the Philippines, particularly a pre-construction development currently being presented to you with any form of time pressure or urgency, she wanted to leave you with the specific piece of advice that had, in her own case, prevented what she now believes would have been a genuinely serious financial mistake. Whatever timeline you are being told applies to your specific decision, whatever pricing is described as temporary, whatever competing interest is described as imminent, wait. Deliberately and regardless of how that waiting period feels in the moment, long enough to retain independent legal counsel and conduct genuine research into the developer's actual track record before signing anything or providing any deposit. Because the specific, brief conversation that prompted her own 90-day delay had cost her nothing beyond a small measure of patience, while potentially saving her a substantial portion of her retirement savings from a decision she now believes, with considerable confidence, she would have genuinely regretted. Subscribe to Second Life Abroad and turn on the notification bell. Share this with someone you know who is currently considering a property purchase abroad and may be feeling exactly the kind of urgency she once felt herself. We will see you in the next one. There is a specific fourth area of risk her attorney identified during that 90-day research period that she wanted included, one distinct from the developer stability, foreign ownership threshold, and payment structure concerns already covered, and that involved the specific and often overlooked question of what actual legal recourse exists if a pre-construction project genuinely does stall or fail after significant payments have already been made. She learned, through her attorney's explanation, that pursuing legal remedy against a failed Philippine development as a foreign buyer involves navigating a court system that can require years to reach resolution, with outcomes that, even when legally favorable to the buyer, do not guarantee actual financial recovery if the developer's company has, by that point, become genuinely insolvent or otherwise unable to satisfy a judgment. Her attorney specifically recommended for anyone proceeding with any pre-construction purchase, despite these risks, verifying whether the specific development carried what is sometimes called an escrow or trust arrangement for buyer payments, a structural protection that holds buyer funds in a separate account managed by a neutral third party rather than transferring directly to the developer's general operating funds, releasing money only as independently verified construction milestones are genuinely reached, a protection that, she learned, a meaningful number of Philippine pre-construction developments do not actually offer, despite claiming general financial security in their marketing materials, and one she now considers an absolute, non-negotiable requirement for any future pre-construction purchase she might consider, rather than the kind of secondary consideration she had originally treated it as during her initial, nearly consequential experience. She also wanted to address directly a specific pattern she has since noticed, having connected with several other American retirees through online communities following her own experience, regarding how frequently this exact scenario, urgency-driven pre-construction sales pressure, followed by a stalled or significantly delayed project, appears to recur across genuinely different individual buyers and developments throughout the Philippines property market. She was careful to note she did not want her story understood as a blanket condemnation of pre-construction purchasing generally, since she knew of